Hello, everyone. I'm Chris, and the pain is unending, isn't it? We have another Rings of Power trailer, not days before we had the last one. So, of course, this is the San Diego Comic-Con one. Not only have we had a trailer for this, we've had loads of trailers actually across the board. Check my sub box earlier in YouTube. There's Black Adam, there's the new Shazam trailer, and a whole bunch of other ones as well. There's also a National Treasure 3 without Nicolas Cage. It's just very confusing why Disney have resurrected that one. But yeah, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Rings of Power. I'm going to give people about 5 minutes or so before I get to the trailer itself, and we probably start tearing this thing a new one again. I actually haven't seen the trailer yet. I will say that I've seen, obviously, for making the thumbnail for this thing. I've seen that there's a picture of the Balrog, and there was a picture of what everyone was saying Sauron, but now I've been seeing people on forums saying that it actually isn't Sauron and it's another character. So I guess we'll discuss that when we get into it, because I actually wasn't aware. I actually thought it was Sauron based on all the articles that I was seeing about it and everything. We've got people in the comments. This is awesome. So we've got Dave. It's been a long time, my friend. Good to see you. And the one and only Carl, who is just the ultimate fan. And I'm glad you're here, my friend. I was actually going to do this video yesterday. It would have been a bit last minute for me, though, because I know the trailer went up yesterday. I'm like tying my hair back and everything. It's like, this is serious business, you know, rolling. Well, I don't need to roll the sleeves up, do I? But this is like our first full trailer for it as well. This is like a 3-minute trailer. So as trailers go, that's pretty substantial. Before we get into it, though, I do encourage you to subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. This is both a live stream and a discussion, and I guess in many ways it's a review of the trailer too. So it's a triple whammy tonight. And while you're at it, give me a follow on Twitter as well. You can find me at Hobbit Fan Editor. I post all the times that I go live, what I've got planned during the week, and everything in between. So yeah, give me a follow on there if you haven't done so already. And, well, I mean, I probably should bring this up at the end, but let me know what you think of the Rings of Power. Interesting topic. I'm part of like a bunch of Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings related pages and groups and stuff on my personal Facebook. And the fan base is just so divided in there at the moment. And, you know, people are posting up stuff about the Rings of Power, obviously, because it's like 2 months away, isn't it? Less than that now, a month and a half away. And I'm already seeing that, you know, divisive nature in the comments, which is, you know, fine if it's an adult conversation, but it's not being an adult conversation. There's people who are just lapping this stuff up, you know, and if they want to look forward to it, of course they can do. But they're kind of saying, oh, there's a bunch of like naysayers and like, shut up and just enjoy it because it's Lord of the Rings. And I'm standing my ground. I'm like dying on this hill in the comments. I'm like, we're all, you know, if we're basing what we've seen off trailers and stills and promotional material at the minute, this is an absolute train wreck. This has been a train wreck from beginning to end. There is literally nothing correct about the Rings of Power based on Tolkien's lore and as a Lord of the Rings fan and as a fan of the extended lore. And you're just kind of getting shouted at. So, you know, shut up. You're a toxic fan, you know, a toxic whatever person because you don't like it, and you should just accept it because it's got Lord of the Rings in the title and you should look forward to it. And I had this discussion last time on the previous live stream that I did, just saying like, no, if that's what promotional material is made for, that's what marketing is made for. If they put out shitty trailers with shitty superfan videos and, you know, terrible production stills with costumes that look terrible that I've probably seen at better amateur dramatic theatre productions, it's, you know, I'm basing my opinion on what is being shown, which is fundamentally the point of a trailer and promotional material. So yeah, it's just kind of a shame, to the point where I'm almost thinking of just taking myself out of some of these groups, you know, groups that I've been part of for years on Facebook, you know, people posting memes and funny stuff about Middle-earth and news and everything. And now with this show, it's going to go the same route as Star Wars. I mentioned this last time. The Star Wars fan base is just completely nuked. It's scattered over a large area at the moment. And, you know, I mean, I'm kind of done with Star Wars now. It's it's just really sad. Like I'm just kind of emotionally dead to Star Wars now. I don't get hyped about anything about it anymore. But I'm seeing the Lord of the Rings go that way too, and I've seen it with a whole bunch of other franchises, and it's a shame because this is my number one fandom, and it's probably going to go down the toilet very quick. But we will see, won't we? We will see. So let's get to the reaction properly now. As I said, I haven't seen this yet. I've only seen the stills of the Balrog and what I thought was Sauron. We're going to watch it all the way through, and then I'll try and go through it frame by frame. I don't want to be on ridiculously late tonight, but I know that I said that last time, and I was on for over 2 hours, so I guess we'll see how it goes, who jumps in the chat, and where the conversation leads us. So, with technology, that should work. No, we want... No, what? Which one do we want? Oh my god, this has all gone to shit, everyone. We want the big one. There we go. That's the one we want. We want the big trailer and the small me. Okay. Oh, Lord have mercy. How many more trailers are they going to put on us? I just want the pain to stop. I've already disliked it, as you can probably see, which is probably very unprofessional of me. Hey, if the trailer's good and it wins me over, I swear on the stars right now, I will change that to a like. But yeah, maybe was a bit hasty, but we'll find out. Right, I'm going to full screen it, and I'm going to turn it down a little bit so that I'm not drowned out. Here we go.
We thought the war at last was ended.
That's very she's taking a lot of time out of a day there to do that.
Our days of peace begin.
We thought our joys would be unending. We thought our light would never dim.
The skies are strange.
The skies are strange. Oh, buffering.
It is here, Galadriel. The moment we feared.
Tarmiriel. I think the rumors are true. Yeah, she goes on a side quest to Numenor, which isn't in the lore at all.
Evil does not sleep. It waits.
Beyond the darkness, tempting shadow, to bury us all beneath the mountain.
He has not one name, but many.
If you heard of him, lad, if you heard of Sauron.
Yeah, so I've read somewhere that there's like a cult or something, a cult of Sauron. That's a Morgul blade, I believe. Yeah.
If the evil rising.
Don't know why there's a Morgul blade, but
it will take us all. Find the light, and the shadow will not.
was that
find
Aquilon? Was that the Kinslaying with the burning ships right there?
Together we can survive this. Fight with me.
Oh god. God, Warrior Galadriel's just so cringe.
Each of us must decide who we shall be.
That shit. Oh, fuck off. Fuck off with your Warrior Galadriel. I've got sea monsters now?
Trust between hammer and rock. Eventually one or the other must surely break.
Oh, what the fuck? Is he like Kratos or something with the chains? The Blades of Chaos?
You have been told many lies of Middle-earth.
I've been told many lies of Middle-earth. This is all a lie. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is gonna be the money shot, isn't it? Why is there a Balrog? Balrog doesn't... Oh god, okay. Well, I know why the Balrog's in there, because it's fan service, isn't it? That's why the Balrog's there. Well, I mean, it's the best trailer out of the three that they've brought out. I'll say that. probably because it's more of a full trailer. I guess there's something more substantial there to talk about. This still looks fucking dreadful. It's so wrong from a lore standpoint. It's fan fiction. It's completely fan fiction. It's like, right, we've just taken the names and probably some of the place names and everything, and we're just telling our own fucking story with our own. We're not trying to adapt Tolkien here. They're not adapting anything remotely Tolkien here. They're going to cherry pick some imagery from, like, well, actually they don't even have the rights to the Silmarillion. That's the thing. The only thing they have the rights for are the scant few paragraphs and pages in the appendices of the Lord of the Rings that refer to the Second Age. That's literally all they've got the rights to. So granted, from those, and even if they had rights to the Silmarillion, they'd have to fill in a lot of blanks themselves, but fucking hell, they don't have to give me Joan of Arc Galadriel. They don't have to just completely destroy, like, what we've come to expect from the different races and the provinces in Middle-earth. Muddy the lore, condense the timeline how they have Galadriel go on a side quest to Numenor. Galadriel never set foot on Numenor. They're like years apart, and Galadriel never went there. But apparently she did now, and apparently she spoke to Queen Tarmiriel, even though Tarmiriel was never a queen to begin with. She was about to be crowned queen, but then Ar-Pharazôn married her because he wanted the throne. So he forcibly made her marry him so that he could be the leader. And of course, Ar-Pharazôn is not a good dude. He's a very ambitious, he's a very boastful and arrogant military leader that ultimately was instrumental in the downfall of Numenor itself. So it's a good cautionary tale. But apparently not now. We've got, because we've got to hit that quota, right? We've got to hit that strong female quota when they could still have that and still be true to the lore. But this is the Game of Thrones. The Game of Thrones influences coming in here. Wheel of Time as well, which was Amazon's own series as well. All the warning signs are there. So should we go through the trailer then? But do let me know what you guys thought of the trailer. Are you a bit more okay with it than I am? Hell, maybe you really liked the trailer. Or maybe you also hated it. So, oh boy. Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about with this one. We've got a lot to talk about. So let's get to it. Frame by frame. I'll do my best now. I always want to, because I know what some Tolkien fans are like. I am not the hugest knowledgeable person on Tolkien's lore. I can hold my own. I know a lot more than some people, but I'm not like this walking encyclopedia or scholar or anything like that. I'd love to be one day, but it is not this day. So okay, with all that being said, let's get to it. So
We thought the war
at
last was ended.
Okay, so stacking a bunch of... Well, these are elven helms. We've seen that from the pictures before. There's a whole bunch of, like, scorched landscape and everything, and burnt trees and ashen lands, so I'm guessing this is the Battle of Sudden Flame. I think some people have talked about that already, trying to decide which war it could be. I think this is fair to say that it's the Battle of Sudden Flame. Which saw a massive massacring of a lot of elves and free peoples too. Carl says, I think the production design does look good, but I don't know about the lore like you do. Yeah, I mean, we'll go through it and I'll speak as I find it. This is a great shot. This is like, it kind of reminds me of something from 300 a little bit. Just, it could be the lighting or something like that. It does look very effects heavy, but I'm fine with that to a point, as long as there's a good blend of practical and CGI, which it does look like there is, but it's a TV budget as well. I know it's a very, very high budget for a TV show, but even still, it's TV budget, isn't it? So some CGI probably isn't going to look as polished as some feature film, and we'll definitely talk about that when we get to the Balrog, because you could say that the Balrog's fine CGI, but compared to the one from the actual Fellowship movie, it's not great. So yeah, I think this is Sudden Flame. Galadriel was there because, of course, her eyes have seen so much, and Elrond is like, I've seen a lot too, and she's like, shut up, Elrond, I've seen more than you. Know your place. I'm the center of attention here, so fuck you. But it's a cool shot. I do think that it's. I mean, did she get a stepladder to pile those helmets that high? Were they just kind of throwing them on top at a point? I don't know why she's got to stack them all in a giant mound like that. It's not necessarily a burial. Is it like a burial mound? I don't know. But it makes for a cool shot. You know, I just think that would Galadriel really have busied herself finding every elven helm from the floor and stacking it up in such a neat artistic interpretate, you know, and a neat artistic way? I don't know, but it's a cool shot.
Was ended.
Oh, that's a sure sign of quality right there.
Our days of peace begin.
Okay, so this is in. I keep wanting to say this is because I keep seeing like the house and everything, and obviously the elven architecture. You've got this bridge here over the water, and I keep wanting to say Rivendell, but I'm pretty sure that this is Linden because we've got King. We've got the High King. Well, I mean that's Elrond, but right here's the High Elven King Gil-galad crowning a bunch of people. He's crowning Galadriel here, isn't it? I think. So is this where we've got all the different there's so many different provinces of the elves in the Silmarillion, and it's absolutely impossible for me to keep track of them all. So I don't know if this is referring to that, you know, they're all getting their own kingdoms within the elven community. I tell you what, though, the short-haired elves just why? Why are there short-haired elves? It's like they've made the effort for some of them. You know, Gil-galad looks great. You know, Galadriel's got long hair. We've got a couple here with long hair, but then we just got short-haired elves, and it's just really strange to me because none of them are described with, you know, short back and sides haircut. It just looks weird, and I'm going to get onto this with my argument for the Balrog, but I may as well just pepper it in here before we get to the Balrog later on at the end of the trailer. That is an identical movie design of the Balrog. That is the Balrog as we know it from the Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers. That is Peter Jackson's Weta Workshop's own design Balrog. So they've gone out of their way to do an accurate depiction of a Balrog as to what we've seen from the movie verse, if they are going with that movie aesthetic. But everything else is wrong and changed. Like, I don't get that. Like, if Amazon wanted to do their own thing set in the Lord of the Rings world, if they wanted a Balrog, I mean, it doesn't make any sense with the lore, and I'll get onto that when we talk about the Balrog, but if they wanted a Balrog, this would be their time to create a new design for one, because they're going with their own aesthetic, they're going with their own idea of what Middle-earth should be, because they've contradicted a whole bunch of stuff, and they've gone out of their way to... It seems like they've purposely gone out of their way to be as out there and non-canonical to Tolkien as possible, but for some reason the Balrog is fair game, and I would argue that you can't be half in and half out. You can't have some things that match the movie look identically, but then everything else contradicts it and isn't right, because, like, what is this then? In that case, is this meant to be like a spiritual predecessor to the movies? It's kind of mostly doing its own thing, but then you've got stuff like the Balrog that's just identical. I don't get that. To me, that just muddies what they're trying to do. If you want to tell your own vision, even if you're just going to like wipe your ass with the fucking source material and the lore, then by all means do it. But make sure you're consistent in your own vision and don't cherry pick things, iconography that we all know. To me, the Balrog is only in this just because it's fan service. People think the Balrog is so cool, and the Balrog is really fucking cool and is actually my favorite movie creature of all time. It just seems like pandering, doesn't it? You know, especially to just throw that at the end of the trailer. It's like Game of Thrones. It's the keys jingling, you know, keys jangling type thing. It's whenever we're losing the audience, get a dragon on screen. And I was actually reading an article the other day about the failed White Walker prequel series they were going to do. What was it called? The Longest Night? Was that what it was going to be called? I can't remember. I know they had... I forgot the name of the actress. The one who played... the one who was in Peter Jackson's King Kong, Naomi Watts. Is it Naomi Watts? I think that might be her name. Whatever that show was going to be anyway. And I was reading an article and it was saying that they produced a pilot for it. It was a very expensive pilot, but it was too different. It was, a completely different period of the timeline when things were a lot more primitive, a lot more mystical, and it didn't feel the same as Game of Thrones. And that's why they decided to scrap that one, and they've gone with House of the Dragon. Why? Because the aesthetic and everything feels like Game of Thrones of what you already know. It's just more of the same. And there's shit tons of dragons there, and dragons are cool, and people love dragons, and people love to see dragons breathe fire and have action scenes with dragons. So that's why that exists. To me, the Balrog at the end of this kind of just seems like its sole purpose for being in this show is just for fan service and nothing more. Because when I get onto it, I'll talk about the lore, and it makes no fucking sense at all as to why that Balrog should be here. Anyway, let's continue. But again, cinematography and everything, the colors are really popping, the golds and everything. It's, some good looking stuff.
We thought our joy.
Yep. So here at the left-hand side of the table, we've got dwarves, we've got Elrond, and I think we've also got Celebrimbor there, even though they've like really aged him up, and he looks nothing like how Celebrimbor. I think Celebrimbor, hell, I think he should be younger than Galadriel at this period of the timeline, if I remember rightly, from the Second Age. And they've cast like the oldest dude possible to play Celebrimbor, which makes no fucking sense and looks nothing like him. But yeah, this is just showing happier times when dwarves and elves were working together, which of course they were during the Second Age. Yeah, the architecture and everything, the elven architecture looks really nice. You sort of like in amongst the trees by the looks of it as well, with the lanterns there. That's some good stuff. If you go from the Hobbit book, for example, when Thranduil is throwing like a feast when the dwarves are starving and they're lost and they've been staggering through Mirkwood for weeks upon weeks, and they stumble upon Thranduil's party and feast in the middle of the trees. It's very reminiscent of that, what I imagine it would be. So yeah, like visually it's fine, apart from some of the looks of a lot of the characters, and the costumes look a bit ropey at some points. But in terms of the cinematography and everything, it's I guess you can see the money on screen.
Be unending. We thought our light.
So I'm guessing this is just going to be more elves. These like elven children or something. Is this going to be our first look at elven children? We've got elven younglings. Okay.
Our light.
I would assume. So yeah, more elves here, I think.
Never dim.
Showing that they're seafaring. Again, though, in this previous shot here, we've got elves that just don't match Tolkien's description, and elves with short hair as well. I'm pretty sure these are elves, although the architecture on the boat, maybe. I don't know. Maybe these could be the race of men.
Never dim.
I can't really tell. The thing is as well, like their ears just really aren't prominent. Can I get a still shot of their ears? Or actually, this I can't really see. I can't tell if that's a point ear on the right or not. The way they're dressed, though, isn't particularly elvish, but I mean, I can say they're not dressed like elves, but that could just be Amazon, just not doing it justice and going, well, why can't elves dress in short sleeve sort of seafaring shirts like this? Why not? So yeah.
Never dim.
The skies are strange.
Skies are strange. We've got I mean, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Well, number one, there shouldn't be hobbits at this point in the story anyway. So I mean, that's just a gross violation of the law right there. And then we've got, I mean, the casting of Lenny Henry is just really perplexing to me because, in the UK at least, he's best known as a comedian. I know he's done some serious stuff before. I think he's done Shakespeare before, actually, if I remember rightly, on stage. This is our half foot. Is it a half foot? I think it is. Is this what they've said? It's just it doesn't match Tolkien's description at all. I've mentioned this a whole bunch of times. Absolutely perplexing casting, and just raises more questions to me in terms of the geography of Middle Earth. It really does. As I've said before, Tolkien wrote a whole bunch of different races. There's loads of races in Middle Earth, loads of different cultures. but they all have their own provinces. And as I've said, like, if you have a problem with that, if you don't think that's progressive for 2022, then guess what? Don't like fucking adapt Tolkien, because Tolkien knew what he was talking about. He wrote his he wrote his fantasy world according to like legends and how he wanted it, and that's just the lore. That is what Middle Earth is. This isn't Westeros, this isn't Pentos, where George R.R. Martin's fantasy world is completely different, and of course it would be, because he's written it from a more modern standpoint. Tolkien wanted to harken back to legends and everything. There are loads of different races in Middle Earth. You've got Easterlings, you've got Haradrim, you've got Corsairs, you've got the Druidane. Fucking hell, loads. All of the races are accounted for, but you could still show that, diversity. If you wanted to meet that diversity quota, you could absolutely do that and still still stay true to the lore. This is not staying true to the lore and just feels very pandering to certain demographics, in my opinion. If you disagree, that's totally fine. Let's have an adult conversation about it. But this is not how Tolkien described hobbits by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going to leave it there. So let's continue. We got our two. We still got that comet, the Comet Man. There's a starman waiting in the sky. So I'm really hoping that isn't Gandalf descending from the heavens on a meteor, because that's just absolutely ridiculous. But I don't know who Meteor Man is. Do we have any guesses? If you have a guess who Meteor Man is, drop me a comment. Let me know who you think it is. I think it's Gandalf. But, who do you think it could be? We've got our original characters here. We've got this human elf love story that we've got a crowbar in there, which with original characters, because Lord knows we couldn't actually tell some stories that Tolkien wrote. We've got to, put a love story in there just because that worked so well with Tariel and Killy in the Hobbit films, didn't it? Let's continue. So this is Numenor at night time. Great shot. Looks good. I like that. I'm looking at this here, and oh god, I'm forgetting the name of it now. Let me Google it. I want to say it's the Menel Tama, but I might be misremembering that. Let me just check. Tar Miriel. It's like a really tall hill on Numenor that Tar Miriel tries to get to before the flooding. I mean, don't get me wrong, the flooding isn't going to happen this series, but I'm wondering if that's the same place. Let me just find it real quick. Tar Miriel. The Menel Tama. God damn, my memory is kicking in. So the Menel Tama is this big, it was a sacred mountain at the center of the island of Numenor. Its summit was flattened and broad and was the site of special gatherings. I think it's described that there's like a monument built on there as well. I don't think it's just a hill. Or I could be thinking of a different place. The name escapes me, but essentially there's like a temple that's built upon a hill. And it could be this one. I don't know. It looks a lot higher up than everything else. It's overlooking the rest, and it kind of looks central to Numenor, I suppose. So this could be that. Here we've got our Egyptian Queen Tar Miriel, which is not how Tar Miriel is described at all, or indeed any of the race of Numenor. It's weird that Numenor is this multicultural nation just in terms of the lore, because they are their own race of people. So here's the thing, right? If Amazon wanted to go for a diversity quota for Numenor, it would go against the law, but be consistent with it. Have every inhabitant of Numenor be of color, but they've all got to be one race, essentially. That is what Numenor is. They're a very specific race of people who are blessed with longer life. So they're of the race of men, technically, but they also have... It's basically the ancestors of Aragorn, Aragorn, Elendil, Isildur. This is their heritage, essentially, is Numenor, and that's why Aragorn is blessed with long life, because he is of the line of Numenor. But the thing is, they have to be consistent with the lore, and the race of Numenor is one race. So either if you want people of color, have them all be of color at Numenor. But it's weird that Numenor is like this multicultural nation now, because again, if you're going to the lore and you bring in the lore standpoint into it, you're thinking, well, you must have had people from, you know, the east, like the Easterlings and the Haradrim must have emigrated across the sea to Numenor, and this is what I mean. It breaks the geography of the world that Tolkien wrote, and because he was very specific, and he wrote probably the largest wealth of lore of any novel, of any mythology, of anything anyone's ever written. Everything had its place and everything was thought out and everything made sense within that world. This kind of breaks that to me. And also the fact, you know, there's been a whole bunch of leaks throughout this series of Galadriel. There's like a whole subplot, a whole side quest where Galadriel sails over to the west in order to meet with Tarmiriel. Female power, whatever you want to say. Maybe you've got these two rulers together, which isn't in the source material at all. Galadriel never even set foot on Numenor. So all of this is a fictional creation completely. As I've said, Tarmiriel wasn't queen at all. Ar-Pharazôn married, you know, she was about to be queen, but Ar-Pharazôn got his claws in and was like, right, you're marrying me. I'm forcing you to marry me, because he wanted to be the ruler of Numenor, and eventually tanked it. Literally, he you know, his decisions and his folly led to the fall of one of the greatest kingdoms in Middle Earth at that point, or Arda, I should say. Yeah, so, you know, we've got a Palantir here as well. I think they show that off in a second, don't they? Yeah, so that's, you know, one of the Palantir, one of the Seeing Stones. Why is Galadriel here? It's just, And I think the shipwreck that we've seen where she's on like a raft, I think that's right after this, probably where she's like heading back from Numenor. And one of the guys in the water is one of the Numenorians as well, I think, who she's totally... I mean, one of my biggest fears is if she has a relationship with this guy, if there's like a whole love story between her and this rugged, manliest of men Numenor characters, because where the fuck is Celeborn? Celeborn is her husband. She should be married by this point. I've heard rumors as well that Celeborn is going to be dead, which, if that's the case, you know, because we can't show that Galadriel's married, you know, to, you know, she can't be married to Celeborn or anything, because that could take the power and initiative away from Galadriel. Well, no, of course it doesn't, because we see in the Lord of the Rings films, Peter Jackson's films, that she's married, and Celeborn is a pivotal character and is there along for the ride as well. Does that take away from Galadriel's power in the Peter Jackson movies? Absolutely not, and it stays true to the lore. So if they come out with that Celeborn is dead by this point, then I'm gonna fucking riot, because it's all wrong. It's all wrong, and you can just see the agenda just coming through it, and it's so transparent to see. It really is. Let's continue.
You just hear Galadriel.
So I'm wondering if this is that flashback again to... Oh, I can't see who are fighting here. I'm guessing it's the elves against the orcs. Could be the sudden... Yeah, so I think this is meant to be Galadriel's brother, isn't it? I think in this rank of the armies here, just getting their asses handed to them with all the fire and everything. I'm guessing this is, once again, the Battle of Sudden Flame. And, you know, you can see the helmets in the background right there that Galadriel eventually stacks in a mound very neatly. There's this awesome screensaver shot, which was probably my favorite shot of, if I can get to it, it's really quick. The one that's all in red. That one. Oh, God, I can't get to it. It's too quick. There we go. So that was the main one from the previous trailer, wasn't it? So, yeah, I don't know why everyone's floating. It makes for a cool shot. It's like this really over-stylized shot, so I don't know what this is going to be. But considering it's sort of packed with that footage that we've seen of Sudden Flame, I'm assuming it's going to be exactly the same thing. This almost looks like they're trying to ape off like the whole Eye of Sauron iconography with the Tower of Barad-dûr, which, of course, isn't a thing at this point because Sauron is still in fair form. So, yeah. Yep, that's Galadriel with her brother. Yep, so dies on the battlefield. And yeah, continuation of that shot. That's his dagger as well, isn't it? I think. Is that going to be a thing where... Yeah, that looks like the dagger that she uses to inexplicably climb an ice wall for some reason. So I wonder if she's going to take the dagger away from him. And I can't tell if it's a sword, actually. It kind of looks like a dagger, so maybe she'll be like, I will avenge you, brother, and continue to be a warrior in your stead, or something like that. I don't fucking know. Haha! Yeah, sure it is. Right, architecture. I want to say this is Numenor again. You've got like the white tree there. Is that just a singular tree? You know, the white blossom. And you know, a seedling was taken from this tree, taken across the sea by Elendil, and was eventually planted in what would be Minas Tirith, if I remember rightly. I think that's right.
Evil does not sleep.
That's probably going to be a thing as well. You know, you've got the white tree, I guess, of Numenor here, and the petals are all falling off it. So it's like, oh, bad things are coming. Sauron is coming.
Evil does not sleep.
And then you got these motherfuckers. And this is the talking point right here, isn't it? It's like evil does not sleep, and everyone saw this and was like, oh my god, this is our Sauron. And I did as well. I panicked. Channels that I follow were all posting this image last night saying this is our depiction of Sauron. And once I'd stopped laughing for about an hour, I thought, oh my god, please say it's not so. How have we got this buzz-cutted Eminem looking motherfucker? How can this be Sauron? This edgelord person right here. But I did read today that apparently those rumors were misinformed, and this is actually not the actor who's down to play Sauron or Anatar, if they're even calling him Anatar in this, because that's obviously the disguise that Sauron was going by at the time was Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. Would you trust this person if it was Sauron? It's like, just looks fucking evil. But I think this shot now confirms it. So if you go to the shot before, you've got these three motherfuckers at the top here. Apparently there's some kind of cult of Morgoth, I think I read earlier, or cult of Sauron. I'm not sure. So you've got like evil cults dedicated to Sauron did spring up on Numenor. That was after Sauron had been taken prisoner by Ar-Pharazôn from Mordor, marched all the way back to Numenor, and imprisoned in Numenor. And I think Sauron was imprisoned for about 3 years, and slowly, because he is this really, you know, conniving, manipulative, deceptive character, he got into the heads of the guards and the lords and the higher-ups of Numenor. Eventually, they were doing things like human sacrifice and all kinds of debauchery, I think. And evil cults rose up. That's where you got the Black Numenorians from. And by Black Numenorians, I mean evil Numenorians. I think that Amazon have just taken that name, Black Numenorians, and kind of been a little bit too literal with it in a lot of standpoints in this. But I'm talking about the race of Black Numenorians that are the evil ones, which is the mouth of Sauron, basically, in the extended edition of Return of the King. You know, my master, Sauron the Great, bids thee welcome. That guy. He's meant to be a Black Numenorian. I don't know if that's specifically stated in the novel, but it's heavily implied that he is. That kind of race. So these cults rose up. So I don't know if this is going to be that case, but they're jumping the gun a bit here because Sauron isn't on Numenor at this point. As far as I know, there's 5 seasons of this, so they've got to drag this shit out for 5 seasons. You're not going to have Sauron coming to Numenor within season 1. Because hell, he's got to create the fucking ring first. He's got to do that first. So yeah, I don't. Again, it's just a fan fiction, isn't it? It's just a fan fiction at this point. So let's continue. But yeah, the memes already of this. I've so many comments I've read about mom spaghetti and everything. Like it's Eminem. It's the real Slim Shady. So we got the dwarves here again. We saw that shot in the previous trailer. So this is Durin the Third speaking to Durin the Fourth. Now, I did watch a video earlier on the lineage of the Durins, so For those who don't know, Durin is a line of the dwarves, and it's prophesied that Durin will be reincarnated. Durin's like this embodiment of the dwarves. This really, the high king essentially of the dwarves is Durin. And when one Durin dies later on down the line, they believe that the spirit of Durin will continue and will be reincarnated in someone else. And actually, in total, there were 7 Durins, which makes sense. 7 dwarf rings. There's a lot of 7s. I think there's 7 kingdoms of the dwarves as well. 7 different provinces, 7 kings of the dwarves, and there were 7 Durins as well. Now, I did watch a video, and it was a lot of information, so I don't know if I'll be able to hack it all in, but apparently during the third reign between like the 1500 and 1600 of the Second Age, and it was he who was given one of the rings of power. Celebrimbor made the 7 rings for the dwarves. I think in the movies they infer that Sauron made the 7 dwarf rings and gave it to the dwarves, but that wasn't the case. Celebrimbor made the 7 dwarf rings, gave one to Durin the Third, which would later be called Thror's ring. And it wasn't until obviously later down the line where Sauron rose to power and everything that slowly but surely these 7 dwarf rings started to corrupt the wearer. Now, it didn't corrupt them in the same sense that it did with the race of men, where it turned them into wraiths. But what it did do, it amplified the greed of the dwarves. And they began to like covet gold a lot more than they already did. And they started to delve deeper and deeper into caverns, which obviously led to the discovery of the Balrog. They mined too greedily and too deep, and they uncovered Durin's Bane. Again, which is why it's called Durin's Bane. The Balrog in the Fellowship of the Ring is called Durin's Bane. So the fact that there's 2 Durins existing at the same time right here, I think does contradict the lore in terms of time and everything. Durin the Third, I believe, fell at the War of the Elves and Sauron, which took place sort of like around 1700 of the Second Age, I believe. So Durin the Fourth wasn't a thing, as far as I know, around this time. Really not much is known about Durin the Fourth and Durin the Fifth. Just, they reigned, they set up shop in Moria. So the fact that Durin the Third is in what I assume is Khazad-dûm and Moria here with Durin the Fourth, that doesn't make a lick of sense in terms of those 2 characters being there at the same point. There's like thousands of years, hundreds of years take place before all these events happen. So I think it was after the fall of Eregion, that's where Durin the Fourth probably set up shop in Moria. Not much is really known of Durin the Fourth and Durin the Fifth, but it's implied that they probably did help out at the War of the Last Alliance, which is what you see at the prologue of the first Lord of the Rings film. Which again, this is taking place way before that. So why are these characters here? So again, yeah, not much is known about Durin the Fourth and Durin the Fifth. So I guess they've got carte blanche, but the whole timeline thing is just completely fucked beyond repair with this whole show. So this is going to take me on to where I'm talking about the Balrog. So I may as well talk about it now while I'm talking about the Durins. It was Durin the Sixth that delved too greedily and too deep and uncovered the Balrog in Khazad-dûm and was killed by the Balrog again, which is why he's called Durin's Bane. So why is there a Balrog in this show? Why do we have a Balrog around about this point in the timeline? All of the Balrogs were either killed or scattered or in hiding after the War of Wrath, which was at the end of the First Age. And there were no Balrogs documented at all. They were either all dead, as I said, or in hiding or hidden under the ground. The only Balrog that we hear of is Durin's Bane, come the Fellowship of the Ring, and, well, when Durin the Sixth mined too greedily and too deep and uncovered it. And then obviously we know what happens with the Balrog. We've seen the Lord of the Rings movies. We've read the Lord of the Rings book. That's the only Balrog. So because we've got Khazad-dûm here, why is the Balrog there? If it is indeed the same Balrog, and I'm assuming it is, because fan service, why is it there? It's all wrong, because we're on like Durin the Third and Fourth right here. The Balrog shouldn't make itself known until Durin the Sixth. So it's just fucked. Let's continue. So this is Galadriel, warrior Galadriel. Apparently there's a rumor that I've heard that there's a fight scene that takes place on top of a volcano or around about a volcano. This doesn't look like a volcano to me. I mean, there's loads of ash everywhere, but there's like buildings in the background right there. So I don't know what that is. If that's the case, and there is like some giant fight sequence on top of a volcano, fuck, I don't know. That's all made up shit. I don't know. But she's in full plate armor right here. She's got a broadsword slung on her back, and I've already made my thoughts known on the whole warrior Galadriel thing. Joan of Arc, Galadriel, it just does a disservice to the character, in my opinion, and where the actual core strength of that character lies. It's not in wielding a sword, and that breaks the law as well, because what does that mean for Eowyn's character? That just takes away from the special quality of Eowyn, where she does stand up to the whole patriarchal society in Return of the King and has that great moment, I am no man. Now, if this is all taking place in the Second Age, and apparently now is in canon with Peter Jackson's films, because we've got an identical Balrog in the show, where are all the women fighters gone by the time of the Third Age? It's just, it's fucked. It's all fucked. So again, yeah, we've got to make Galadriel a focal character, and we've got to make her like this fucking Xena warrior princess lady, which is fundamentally not what Galadriel characters is.
He has no one name.
Sure, whatever.
Many.
It's got this right here. Hang on, what's she say?
Many.
She has what's it?
Many.
He has not one name, but many. Well, that's referring to Sauron. Now, I'm looking at what this place is. I kind of want to say it's Tau Nufuin, but that was way before. That was like Beren and Luthien. That was like First Age shit. Tau Nufuin. I think it's Tau Nufuin. I think that's the name of it. Was a name for the southern parts of Dorthonion, and sometimes the forest of Morgoth, Dagobrogalak. No, what's the name of Sorry, I'm thinking of Tolin Galhoth. That's what I'm thinking. Tolin Galhoth, which is the Isle of Werewolves, because there was a time where Sauron was a werewolf. He was also a vampire. He was a shapeshifter, and it's a great story. Beren and Luthien would highly recommend it. It's one of the best stories in the Silmarillion. I mean, this isn't Barad-dûr. This can't be Barad-dûr, because as far as I know, Barad-dûr wasn't built at this point, I don't think. And she said, you know, Sauron has like many names, so it kind of looks like Tolin Galhoth a little bit. I mean, this is a picture here by Alan Lee. I'm going to hold it up to the camera now. You know, it's a tall tower. It looks remote. It's kind of how I imagined it, actually, when I read the Silmarillion. So, but if that's the case, it just makes no sense. And the reason that I think this could be that place, like the Isle of Werewolves, is because we've seen that shot, haven't we, where we've got the Black Elven character is like fighting what looks like a warg or like a werewolf or something, and there's someone chained up in a pit there, and that's precisely what Sauron was doing at this place. He had people chained in pits, and he'd sick his werewolves and wolves on them. So maybe they're doing that, I don't know, but again, they're just playing with the timeline of this thing, so I really don't know. So we got ice right here. So this guy looks like he's kind of got the black spot or something. He's got some kind of, you know, he's marked, he's branded for some reason. He's holding a Morgul blade, so I don't know what the whole Morgul blade thing is, because the ring wraiths haven't been created yet. The rings haven't been partitioned to the kings of men. The 9 kings of men, they haven't become wraiths yet, so I don't know how they've got Morgul swords and Morgul weapons. It's the same thing that I had in the Hobbit movie, actually, where Killy gets hit with that arrow in Desolation of Smaug, that poisoned one, and it's just like, oh, he's been hit with a Morgul arrow. I'm like, what the fuck is a Morgul arrow? Where are you getting this Morgul tech from? The ring wraiths have the Morgul tech, and they haven't been fucking created at this point. So this guy's got like a brand like the black spot on him or something that's probably, I mean, shit, I don't know. And this guy's probably like a weird cult leader or...
If you heard of Sauron...
What the fuck is going on with this shit? So this is an orc. An orc ambush. Yeah, look, see, look, he's gonna have some magical, mystical power, isn't he? Where he can channel like the spirits of the Wraith world or something, and get a fucking Morgul blade. What the hell? Ah!
If the evil rising is left unchecked.
So this is the snow cave where they fight that troll. Yeah, they're throwing shit at them. This bit here. So I mean, I see burning ships right here, and I'm thinking immediately it's the kinslaying, where Feanor kills a bunch of the elves at Aqualonde. The first kinslaying. I don't know. What do you? Oh, actually, no. Is it the second kinslaying? Is it? Is that what? I can never remember. I can't remember if Feanor, the burning the ships at Aqualonde, is the first kinslaying or the second kinslaying. I can't remember. Could be the first one, I think. So I'm thinking of that, but again, who knows? Like, they could be doing their own thing.
Fine.
But I see burning ships, and immediately that's what I think of.
Find the light, and the shadow will not find you.
So got someone strolling through here, and I'm guessing this is the we've seen this glove before on one of the character posters. It's this guy who's dressed in like black armor and like black gauntlets, and he's holding a sword. It was one of the character posters. Well, I say character posters. It was like an extreme close-up, wasn't it, of people like holding props and whatnot. All of the orcs are bowing before this dude walking through. So is this Sauron? Is this our glimpse at Sauron? Do we think it is, or is it another character? My brain wants to keep going to the lore to try and make sense of this, and none of it makes sense, so fuck knows. It could be anyone. It could be anyone.
Together we can survive
This guy is one of the race of Numenor.
this.
Fight with me.
Here we go. Just fucking hell. Just look at that. Jesus Christ. Continue. Yeah, so I mean, this is our elven character who's doing all kinds of stupid fucking superhuman shit. This looks like it's on some. I mean, we've got orcs there in the background. This looks like it's a continuation. You know that tower in Golhoth, or whatever it's called, the Isle of Werewolves I was talking about. This looks like it is going to be part of that place. It looks like he's storming this place, and then he's probably going to get imprisoned and be put in that pit. So. That's what I think anyway.
Each of us must decide who we shall be.
Warrior Galadriel, what the fuck? Why is she leading a cavalry charge? That is not what Galadriel's meant to do. That goes against her character completely. I hate it. This is just terrible. It's really just terrible. Oh, look at that. Fucking hell. They're laying it on thick in this, aren't they? Oh my god, has she cut her hair like Mulan as well? Oh my god, she actually has. Oh, she got it tied back. I'm not sure. If she's cut it short, then just fuck this show. It looks like it is, though. It looks like it's been chopped. I could be wrong. It could be tied back. I'm not sure. Orcs. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? We've got like a giant kraken thing? What the fuck? Sea monsters? Well, I don't know what the fuck that is, because Tolkien never wrote that there were sea monsters. The only thing that is like remotely a sea creature is the Watcher in the water. That's it. So I don't know what this is. So your guess is as good as mine. But yeah, that's Galadriel, isn't it? Yeah, when she's on that raft, and then she's going to be cast adrift, and then she's going to have an encounter with this giant fucking whale thing for some reason. Is it Monstro or something? Whatever.
There can be no trust between hammer and rock.
Okay, yep, the dwarves.
Eventually one or the other.
Wow, oh my god, is that a shot where like they all actually look like dwarves? Holy fuck, a shot where they all actually look like dwarves. This is kind of an interesting look for the dwarven armor in the background, though. Behind Durin the Fourth right there. Hey, Nikki, good to see you. Nikki's just done a comment. She says Tolkien did mention sea serpents. He said they had a relation to dragons. Oh, okay. Okay, I stand corrected. I didn't remember any talk of sea monsters or anything like that, or sea serpents. So, do you know whereabouts it says that in the lore? Just not being like facetious or anything. I'm curious to go back and read that now, because I thought they were just the dragons. You know, Glaurung, Scartha. Then you've got the Fire Drake of Gondolin. And then you've got like Ancalagon the Black, haven't you? And is that it? Am I thinking of another one? There's not many dragons really in the grand scheme of things, at least not ones that are named. Yeah, but if you can kind of point me in the right direction for the sea serpent thing, that'd be cool, because I genuinely didn't know that. But yeah, like the dwarven armor here, it kind of reminds me of. There is armor that looks like that. I'm trying to remember. I might be thinking of like samurai armor, but I think there's another culture as well that have like these face masks kind of thing. Like I've definitely seen that kind of armor before. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's you know it's different from what we've seen before, but I don't think it's out of place for a dwarf to wear that.
Eventually, one or the other.
Actually, in the Silmarillion, does it say that they have like metal masks? Actually, it could be in the Silmarillion too. If I remember right, I'm going to have to go back and reread the Silmarillion like a whole bunch of times. I've read it 3 times, but 3 times is not enough to read the Silmarillion. It's certainly not to retain it all. But I think it mentions that they sort of like make face masks like that, like ceremonial masks. So this is our Hobbit discovering fucking Gandalf, maybe? Ugh. Terrible. This guy right here doing some fucking physics-defying impossible shit. Now, I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, Legolas did that. Yes, he did. But even in the context of the Lord of the Rings, maybe it's because, like, the shield surfing down the stairs thing, the skateboard thing, was all done in camera. So that's why I can kind of believe that thing. The Oliphant is very ridiculous, but there are even moments in that where you can kind of go, yeah, well, you know, he's climbing up arrows. He's a good climber. He's swinging on a thing. He cuts a thing which will tip the hut off the top of the Oliphant. It's physics defying, don't get me wrong. It's very over the top and it's very Peter Jackson, but even in the Lord of the Rings, I think there was like a realm of possibility for someone who's like highly agile. We've seen people that can parkour, that can swing and everything. Now in the Hobbit films, yeah, that is some stupid fucking physics defying shit with both Tauriel and Legolas in that film, and I hate that. But this right here, it reminds me of like a combo move that Kratos would do in God of War, like with the fucking Blades of Chaos. Like, look at this shit.
Really big.
What the fuck is that noise? Yeah, so as we say, like he's in some kind of torture pit here. Is he going to free the slaves? I think he's going to free the slaves, because we've got this guy on the right who we saw chained up in the last trailer, and he's also fighting back. We're going to have wolves in this sequence. And this looks like it's these Sauron cultists. You know, in the white robes again that we saw earlier in the trailer. The one that I thought was Sauron, but turned out not to be Sauron. Nikki says, it's in the Lost Road and other writings. I wouldn't have known about it if not. Oh, okay. The Lost Road and other writings. I'm looking at, that's not like the 12. I'm looking at my 12 volumes of Middle-earth right now. Oh, The Lost Road and Other Writings. Okay, yeah, no, it's volume 5. Yeah, it's volume 5 of the 12-volume series, The History of Middle-earth. I own all the books. I haven't read them yet. I would love to. They're very imposing because they're very thick books and they're going to read like a goddamn history textbook. So, yeah, I do want to get to those at some point because there's clearly a lot more Tolkien that I haven't discovered yet. So I've got to put the work in, got to put the time in. But yeah, this is going to be the torture pit, I think, in the Isle of Werewolves. That's what I'm guessing. I could be very wrong. It could just be a fortress for Sauron. You know, they could have just taken that idea from the Silmarillion and just worked it into this. But you're going to have all people fighting back, fighting back against these cultists right here. This is where they're throwing him into the pit, I would say, initially. You've got someone who looks like they're crouched down, looking very sorry for themselves on the left. You've got like a whole bunch of bones and withered trees and everything in there. Yeah, pushed in there by the orcs. What do we think to the look of the orcs, by the way? I mean, this is kind of reminding me of Walking Dead or something right here, the orcs. I mean, they look like orcs. If you were to tell me what race is this in Middle Earth? I would say Orc, you know, so. And what I will say, fair play to them, is actually people in costume. You know, that's important too. One of the most unfortunate things about the Hobbit films was the level of CGI orcs, which I thought really, really hurt those Hobbit films. Okay, yeah. So actually, that whole volcano thing that I mentioned could, because this looks like a blast from fucking Pompeii, doesn't it? You got the shockwave there. You got like this province of man. And then you've got Galadriel. You've got warrior Galadriel, who's gonna fucking stop the volcano because she's super powerful and she's in armor and she means business. God damn it! And she's gonna stop this fucking volcano. I think I've heard that she has like a female on female fight with. I can't remember who it is. I think it's like one of the cultists. Maybe she has a fight with a woman on a volcano. I don't know where this volcano is. Maybe it's Mount Doom. Maybe this is going to be like Mordor before it was evil or something. Fucking hell, I don't know. Christ, I hope not. But look at her. She's going to stop that thing because she's strong. So yeah, this is what people thought was Sauron. Again, I really hope that if this is Sauron, we fucking riot. But I don't think I'm pretty sure it isn't now. A lot of people were saying that yesterday, but I think it has come out now that this isn't the guy they've. Well, I don't think it's a guy at all. Actually, I think this is an actress who's playing some kind of leader of this cult to Morgoth or something. I've seen. I don't know if that's true or not. You know, magical powers. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening anymore. It's like a sorcerer of some kind, but I don't know. Like, it's not one of the Astari. They're the ones who kind of have magic. It's not an elf. So how are they conjuring magic? I don't know, because magic has a property. It either resides with the elves, you know, or people that are inherited from the elves, or it's the Astari who are wizards, or it's, you know, like Maiar and stuff like that. But this looks like some kind of like Melisandre character. I'm very confused.
You have been told many lies of Middle-earth.
That's on fire. Oh, so we have been told many lies of Middle-earth. Isn't that like the most like poetic and prophetic term you could end the trailer with? It's like it's like in the last trailer where it was like, let the past die, doing the Last Jedi thing. Let the past die. Forget what you've known. That's wrong. Let it die. You've been told a lot of lies about Middle-earth. It's like, forget those Peter Jackson films. Forget everything you know about Tolkien. This is the real Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. It's like, fuck you. To end your trailer with that. And then here we go, as I've mentioned. Let's get to the Balrog then. Come on. Put it at the end. It's a money shot. I mean that right there. Could I pause it at a better place? That is Peter Jackson's Balrog. Fundamentally, that is the identical design of the Balrog. So why is it okay to have something from the movie canon 100% accurate, which is that, but everything else has got to be different and against the grain and completely far removed from what it is? You can't be half in and half out. You can't have an identical Balrog to what we've known from the movies, because then you go, right, well, this takes place in the movie continuity, but then everything else and every other character is completely wrong and far removed from the lore, that you go, well, this can't take place in the Peter Jackson film. So which is it? You know, which is it? As I said, if you wanted a Balrog just for fan service, Andreas says it could be imprisoned Sauron. The Númenóreans did cut off his hair. It could be. It looks like a buzz cut, though. It doesn't look like his hair's been cut. It looks like a straight up buzz cut, doesn't it? I don't know. If that's our depiction of Sauron, then fucking hell. You mean to tell me you've got all these conceptual designers and that's the best look you could come up with for Sauron? The thing is, he's meant to... I don't know if this is Anatar at this point, because I know Anatar comes, you know, he comes before the elves and he looks fair. you know, he's in fair guise at this point because he's got to win their trust. Would the elf trust someone who looks like a fucking demon? No. Like, so he appears as an elf, like elf-like, angelic. And there's a great line which is actually used in the Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition, and it's straight from the Fellowship book as well, where Frodo says something. I think he's referring to Strider. He says that a spy of the enemy would look fairer and feel fouler, which is a great line. And he's right. Like, would you trust that guy? If that is Anatar, bringer of gifts, if that motherfucker showed up, this like emaciated, anorexic, Eminem sucked up, evil eye kind of person, like, would you trust that person? No, of course you wouldn't. So Anatar, you know, they were actually, it was from a deleted scene in Return of the King. When the Black Gate opens and Aragorn kind of has a moment, the Peter Jackson and the writers originally toyed with the idea of having Sauron show up on the battlefield. Indeed, the CGI troll, the Ologhai that Aragorn fights during the Black Gate, was pasted over because originally they had Aragorn fighting Sauron in full plate mail, who initially appears to him. You know, when he kind of has that moment where it all goes like slow-mo and it goes really eerie and Sauron's voice is like, like that whole thing, and Gandalf waves his hand over Aragorn to snap him out of the trance right for Frodo. Originally, the angelic form, kind of like Anatar, was going to show up and then manifest itself into Sauron in plate mail. I'm so glad that they didn't do that. But that's the kind of look you need for Anatar. That's how he would have appeared. So I really hope it isn't Sauron. If the choice is that's got to be Sauron, or we've created this new thing like this cult to Morgoth that is championing Sauron's return, I'd rather it be the cult, because I am not having that be Sauron. That is not hashtag not my Sauron. Nikki says that the Balrog doesn't have wings. That is very true, unless they're they could be shrouded by the shadow and flame, maybe. But even still, it's like, don't get me wrong, like, I love Peter Jackson's depiction of the Balrog. I think it looks fantastic. It's my favorite movie creature. But that's fundamentally what it is. It's a creature, isn't it? It's very bestial. It's very animal-like. The way it roars, the way it looks, the way it moves and carries itself. Whereas Tolkien's depiction of Balrogs is very, very different. And I think I mentioned this last time. It's almost like a fallen angel kind of thing. It's this like flame-like person of man shape, probably maybe about 9 or 10 foot tall, perhaps. This very tall, slender angel spirit. That is fundamentally what the Balrog is, and they don't have wings. I think the description in the book is that the smoke that surrounded it, the shadow kind of unfurled itself and spread wide, almost like two vast wings that spread from chasm to chasm. Something that's used in the literature that says like wings is a simile. That doesn't mean that they have wings. So, it's an artistic interpretation, isn't it? But I'm just questioning why, if you're going to have the Balrog in there, which breaks canon anyway, because the Balrog didn't show up until Durin the Sixth, and there were no other Balrogs that we know of, non-documented. They were all in hiding or dead after the War of Wrath. Why make it look identical to Peter Jackson's? To me, the reason for that, make it identical. Everyone loves the Balrog. Everyone thinks the Balrog is super fucking cool. So let's get the Balrog in the show. And let's have it be the last shot of the trailer to get all the fanboys in. But to me, like, the damage has been done at this point. So there we go. There's our Balrog. That's that and indeed the end of the trailer. Oh my God, I've only actually been talking for 1 hour and 10 minutes. This is actually record time for me. I'm going to hand over to you guys, though, because I've been doing enough talking. Like I've ranted on this thing for over 1 hour right now. Credit where credit's due. Some of the cinematography is very nice in this trailer. I think it's the best trailer out of the 3 that we had, but that could just be the fact that we've seen more from it. But to me, everything that we've still seen is still wrong, is still just, totally against the law, the established idea of Tolkien's world and Tolkien's writings. And for me, it's still a massive thumbs down, and that dislike is staying exactly where it is on the video. But what do you guys think of the trailer? Am I being too harsh on it? Do you actually have you come around to it more after seeing this, or do you still have loads of reservations about it? Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to get some water. Nikki said, get my words out. Nikki says it has elements I liked, but like you said, things like the Balrog and other elements that simply shouldn't be there turn me off. Yeah, it's just and I think it was better than the teaser. I mean, it stands to reason it would be better than the teaser. I mean, it's a full trailer, isn't it? They've showed a little bit more off, sort of the set design maybe, and the cinematography certainly, and the effects work in the show, and the Balrog. Yeah, it's just the fact that it's. And the thing is, it's because Peter Jackson changed a lot of stuff for The Lord of the Rings, and he changed even more stuff for The Hobbit. But let's stick with The Lord of the Rings, which I think are fantastic adaptations of the novels. Are they 100% faithful? No. Did he cut a lot of stuff out? Yes. Did he change a lot of stuff around? Absolutely. But to me, all of the changes within The Lord of the Rings were done for the sake of adaptation. You can't, unfortunately, you can't translate and adapt Tolkien page for page. It would be... It wouldn't function as a TV show. It wouldn't function as a film if you adapted it line for line, sentence by sentence, page for page, what Tolkien did. But I think that all the changes and everything that Peter Jackson did to those films was for the sake of adaptation. And I think, all of those changes were coming from the right place and, the right thought process. Not so much from The Hobbit, but you could argue that he didn't have as much planning time for that, and Warner Brothers were bearing down on him and had a lot of studio notes. They wanted Toriel in there. They wanted that strong female character. They wanted the love story in there between, her and Killy. And they wanted to do loads of it in CGI when Peter Jackson wanted to take the time to delay it and do a lot of it practically. They were like, no, just do it all in a computer. Warner Brothers were to blame for that. But to this, like the changes to this don't strike me as we're doing this for the sake of adaptation. Necessary changes that are needed for adaptation. This just seems like we think that Tolkien is a racist, and Tolkien's lore and writings needs to be more progressive for a 2022 audience, and we're going to put all of our own message and all of our own baggage and agenda and politics and identity and gender and sexuality politics. It feels like they've gone in with that intention because that's what a lot of studios are doing. Disney are probably the biggest proponent of it right now, but loads of other studios do it as well. And it seems like, unfortunately, Tolkien's, under Amazon's steering the ship with it, it's going to fall victim to the Lord of the Rings as well. You can't just adapt Lord of the Rings and people project their own stuff onto it, what they want to. Or, well, Tolkien didn't like allegory either. Like, he was just... It's just a secondary world. It's just fantasy. It's escapism. Kind of assess it and look at it from the story standpoint that it is. It's just, these are original characters. This is an original story. It exists in its own vacuum. It's its own secondary world, which itself is written to be the precursor to our own world. But this just feels like the studio's gone in and says, like, yeah, no, we don't like Tolkien. Forget what you know about Tolkien. You've been told a lot of lies about Middle-earth. This is how it actually should be. And that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like this is coming from a place of love, of someone genuinely wanting to adapt this work. This feels like a studio that's got its claws into an IP and they're just going to milk it for every penny that it's worth. That's what it feels like to me. Peter Jackson, all his life, wanted to direct The Lord of the Rings. And the way you watch any of those behind the scenes, the appendices of the Lord of the Rings film, and the whole crew, like the amount of shit that they had to go through to get those films done, the amount of hours they were working daily, round the clock for years, pre-production, post-production, everything. And look how good those films turned out. And there's not a negative word from anyone in that cast and crew in those behind the scenes. Yeah, did they have some times? Did they have some hardships that they had to get through? Absolutely. But they were all like one big happy family and they got through it and they made what I believe to be the defining moment of cinema between that trilogy. I genuinely think they're the greatest films ever created and probably will ever be created. That's just not me as a Tolkien fanboy. Obviously, the films got me into Tolkien in the first place, but just in terms of when you watch those behind the scenes and what they were able to achieve, I have no words for it. I'm speechless every time I watch it. And even though the appendices go into like infinitesimal detail of how those films were made, it still feels so esoteric. It still feels like, how was this produced by man and woman? You know, how could people do this? But this doesn't feel like this. This, as I said, this just feels like it's done for financial gain, and there's no passion or need to tell this story. That's what it feels like. It just feels very underhanded to me. Commissioned for 5 seasons. They've spent a lot of money on this. I really hope this flops. I kind of really do. And that could be petty of me, and people could be saying like, oh, you're not even giving it a chance and everything. I've given it a chance. I've given it a chance for every bit of promotional material. I've given it every chance for 3 trailers now, for every artwork that's been released, for every character poster that's been released, for every super fan video, for every article that comes out that you're a toxic fan, that you're a racist, that you're a misogynist if you don't like this stuff. And the thing is, this isn't new. You know, this isn't my first rodeo. This has happened with Star Wars. This happens with a lot of franchises. They go for the low-hanging fruit. If you don't like our product, if you don't like this casting choice or whatever, you are instantly a racist and misogynist, and you should be crucified on a cross of fire. And we've started seeing, you know, things come out about that. It's just like, oh, Tolkien himself was a racist and wasn't progressive enough, so we're changing this. The fucking writer of the show, I think it's the writer of the show or the creative consultant, is like this ubermensch, like feminist and, you know, modern culture kind of thing, like everything like that, and is just so woke beyond belief, and has even spoke out against Tolkien himself. And it's just, it really makes me upset. I really want to be proven wrong, guys. I really do. I really do. And I will be watching the series, and I will be reviewing it when it comes out. Of course I will. I don't want to watch it based on everything that I've seen, but I feel like I owe it to you guys, and you know, I hope a lot of you would tune in and hopefully watch it and discuss it week to week as well, and we can have a conversation about it. But to me, it's just dead on arrival. I've kind of seen enough, you know, and there's a part of me that doesn't want to watch it because it's going to tarnish the main thing that I love in life is Tolkien's work. It's the thing that I'm massively passionate about. And I don't want it. I don't want the same thing to happen that's happened to me with Star Wars. I used to love Star Wars. I used to worship the ground. I couldn't get enough of Star Wars. Everything, merchandise, autographs, video games, you name it. It was all about it. It was all I could talk about was Star Wars. Big part of my life, big part of growing up. Now Disney have just fucking tanked it, and I can't even bring myself to watch the original Star Wars films again because I'm just kind of bored by them. I'm just kind of done. And I don't want that to happen with Lord of the Rings. It will be a sad day in my life if I get to the point saying that Lord of the Rings is too oversaturated now. There's all the normies out there that are just going like, oh my God, Rings of Power is like way better than the Peter Jackson films. And all that stuff, which is going to happen. And I'm just going to be surrounded by that environment. And it's just going to make me hate the Lord of the Rings films. I'm just going to want to take like a back seat. I'm going to take a step back from Tolkien's world, and I'm not going to want to read his books because it reminds me of the Rings of Power. I'm not going to want to watch the TV shows or anything like that. And if that happens, I will come to you a broken man because that'd be it. That'd be it. Like, what other franchise out there? Like Indiana Jones is fucked. With Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, maybe the new one could be good, but I'm not holding my breath. Lord of the Rings will be gone. Star Wars is gone. Back to the Future still remains untainted. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Back to the Future, but it's not on the level for me that Star Wars was or Lord of the Rings is. So I don't know. Game of Thrones went down the shit pan, didn't it, with season 7 and season 8. Nikki says, this will not do what Picard did the Next Generation. Yeah, this is what I mean. This is what I think it's going to do. And this is why I'm like, I'm dying on this hill. You know, I'm like, I'm not going to say I'm leading the charge because thankfully there are some YouTube channels out there that are also speaking out against the Rings of Power and can see through the bullshit. What also kind of breaks my heart as well is that I was following channels such as Men of the West and Nerd of the Rings. And don't get me wrong, like I still occasionally tune into their videos and stuff. And I guess they've got to keep an open mind, but the amount of shilling that's coming out for this show, and it was when they invited like a whole bunch of people to London for like a sneak peek or something, all expenses paid, hotels paid for, food, everything, sneak peek at the Rings of Power. Of course, they've been bought off by Amazon, haven't they? These big prolific Lord of the Rings channels. And in my opinion, if you do a Lord of the Rings channel, if you are a proponent of the lore, if you are passionate about the lore and the legacy of Tolkien, not a damn thing that's come out about this show will get you jazzed, will get you pumped, will make you go, yeah, they've accurately depicted that. Everything is wrong. So I'm kind of flabbergasted thinking that, I love that word, flabbergasted. It's been so long since I've said that word. If you respect the lore that much, then why would you shill for this thing? But you see it with Star Wars channels as well. There's loads of channels out there that shill for everything just because it's got the Star Wars brand on there. They might be shilling just so they can get early press screeners for things, or so that Amazon can invite them back for season 2 to come to the UK again. And all these Tolkien channels that I once respected, I've seen them just kind of, here's your 30 pieces of silver kind of thing. And now I don't watch their content because I'm just thinking, well, you've kind of proven to me where your loyalties lie. There's no conviction in anything anymore. And I like to think that I'm a man of conviction. I will stand by my word. I will stay true to what I believe in, and come hell or high water. Anyway, I don't know. I'm talking a lot. I stopped talking about the trailer like 20 minutes ago. Lord Dem Rangs. Absolutely, man. Lord Dem Rangs. Nikki says, just keep reminding yourself that this is not canon. You're right. And don't get me wrong. This is so far removed from canon. This couldn't be further away from canon than it already is. Andreas says, do you think we saw a glimpse of Ulmo early in the trailer? You know what? I was actually going to mention that. I was trying to rack my brain of what that thing could be. And, I said there's the Watcher in the water, but that resides in the Mirrormere, outside of Khazad-dûm. I think it's the Mirrormere, isn't it? Is that what it is? The Watcher in the water, anyway. You know what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure it's the Mirrormere, but I could be wrong. And I was trying to think of any other seafaring creature in Middle-earth that I couldn't. And I was actually going to say, is it Autumno? Oh, wait, no. Sorry. No, I was thinking of Ulmo. Sorry, my bad. Wow, now I look like a stupid fanboy right now. I got Autumno mixed up with Ulmo. It's easy. They both begin with U. Cut me some slack. No, Autumno. Yeah, I mean, Autumno was one of the fortresses, wasn't it? It was Angband and Autumno were kind of like the two big fortresses that were made during the First Age. Autumno, I think, was given to Sauron, wasn't it? Whereas Angband was pretty much ran by Morgoth. It could be Autumno. It could be. I was under the impression, though, that Autumno gets leveled, doesn't it, during the War of Wrath? I thought. I'm not sure. But again, they're doing their own thing with the lore, aren't they? I did think it was Autumno, or I did think it was the Isle of Werewolves. Either way, it's going to be a fortress to Sauron at some point, isn't it? And it's going to be ran by orcs, and it's going to be ran by like these cult leaders, and then the new elven character is going to go in there to try and storm it, or to do some reconnaissance or whatnot, or to try and stop something. And then he's going to get thrown into that pit, and then he's going to lead the charge, and then they're going to break out of there with all the other people that are in chains. Yeah, I fucked up. I fucked up, my friend. I thought you meant Ulmo. But yeah, Melkor's first castle. Nikki says, I thought it was funny that towards the end of the trailer there was like 5 shots of diversity back to back, just to remind us, says, hey, we had, yeah, definitely. It's so, and the stuff with, yeah, they really double down on the wokeness at the end, don't they? There's the diversity quota, and then there's as many shots of Galadriel looking cool, Galadriel in full armor, in battle, army crawling through ash, fighting on a volcano, wielding a fucking broadsword, leading men and stuff like that. And it's like, no. If anything, this should be Celeborn doing this. But, if they have gone with a thing that Celeborn's dead. That's the thing as well. Like, if Celeborn's dead, then how can this fit into the Peter Jackson continuity if they are still sticking by that? So why is the Balrog? You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Otherwise, what is this? What is this? If I'd respect Amazon more if they just came out and said, you know what, we're completely doing our own thing. Fuck it. Everything's an original creation, an original look. You want elves with long hair? Well, fuck you. We've got elves with short hair now. You want, you know, the race of dwarves and elves and everything that stay true to Tolkien's lore? Fuck you. We've got diversity all across the board, even when you could have diversity in the show and still stay true to the lore. As I mentioned last week, why aren't we seeing the lands of Harad? Why aren't we seeing the lands of Rune? We could see the Easterlings. I'm fascinated by the Easterling and Haradrim culture, and Tolkien sadly didn't write much about it, and I really want to know. Take the opportunity and do that in the show. You could have a whole province of people of color. You could go fucking nuts with the diversity, and it would fit with the lore, and it'd be great. Just don't do it with the elves and the dwarves and the hobbits. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, they really did double down in the trailer, isn't it? And that's what's turning me off about it, because it's every fucking bit of media now is doing that, and it's like, story and character be damned. And from what I've even heard from the writing in this show, the lines, like, it feels like it's really stilted line delivery. The lines don't sound poetic. They just feel very basic, and you know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't have the language of Tolkien. It doesn't, you know, the way that people talk in The Lord of the Rings, whether it's a direct quote from Tolkien or, you know, the original dialogue that they wrote for the films, but it's the perfect blend. Whenever they go into a Tolkien line, it doesn't feel out of place from other lines of dialogue within the film. The Hobbit did get very modern with its line. I mean, there was some from the book still, don't get me wrong, but there was much more modern dialogue definitely in the Hobbit films. But the way that people talk in The Lord of the Rings, you know, what is it? Elrond says his monologue in Two Towers. It's like, but you, my daughter, you, and you know what? I'm going to bring it up right now, because it's one of the most beautiful bits of dialogue I've ever heard. Let me find it. Here we go. Whether by the sword or the slow decay of time, Aragorn will die, and there will be no comfort for you, no comfort to ease the pain of his passing. He will come to death, an image of the splendor of the kings of men in glory, undimmed before the breaking of the world. But you, my daughter, you will linger on in darkness and in doubt, as night falling winter comes without a star. Here you will dwell, bound to your grief under the fading trees, until all the world has changed and the long years of your life are utterly spent. Isn't that just fucking beautiful? And it's just like, all of the lines in this are just like, let the past die. You've been told lies. Have ye ever heard of Sauron? It's just, this is fucking trash. It's going to be like basic bitch dialogue, isn't it? It's going to be terribly written. Oh, it just makes me sad. It makes me sad. I remember when there was the announcement that there was going to be a Lord of the Rings TV show, and it was always, you know, it was always called the Lord of the Rings TV show. And then they said it was going to be set in the Second Age. And, you know, the early marketing was actually really good. You know, when they did that whole Twitter thing, and it was like 3 for the Elven Kings, you know, under the sky kind of thing. And it would have like a section of the map. And then as the map built up, we'd be like, oh my God, we're in the Second Age. We're going to see all these provinces. Mind was going crazy at all the possibilities. I was like, oh my God, we're going to get a fucking Second Age show. We're going to show some of that, you know, Silmarillion shit I've wanted to see on the big screen for years now. I was like, okay, it's not First Age stuff, and they're probably not going to do everything from the Silmarillion, but Second Age still has some pretty cool shit that happens. And then they released the first image, which was what we now know to be what I think is Galadriel looking at the 2 trees of Valinor, which I still stand by is a really nice shot, even in the trailers. It's very accurate to how I imagined it. And I saw that, and I flipped my shit. I was like, but this is First Age stuff. Like, I thought they could only adapt Second Age stuff, and I was like, holy fucking shit, we're going to get like proper Could you imagine a 5-season Silmarillion show? Pick and choose which storylines you do. So, like, season 1, you could have, I don't know, like you could have a prologue, like a 10-minute prologue or something that's the Aina Lindale, the creation of the world itself and the rising of Melkor, the destruction of the lamps. You could do all of that, and then boom, you've got it. The birth of the firstborn, Ungoliant with the trees. That could be your first story, for example, and then your second season, you could do something else. You could have a season dedicated to Beren and Luthien and that story, or the fall of Gondolin, or the Children of Húrin. The Children of Húrin as a TV series. I want to see that. Could you imagine? And then, like, your 5th and final season could be, the Rings of Power, maybe, or the Fall of Númenor. That would be mental. That would be so great. But instead, we've got Amazon's The Rings of Power. And the rest is history. Right, guys, I'm rambling anyway, and it's getting pretty late, and I've still got a lot to do. I've got piano to practice. I've got guitar to practice. And I'm actually working on a new fan edit right now, actually. I'm currently working on a fan edit of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. If you guys would like more info on that. I mean, I've only just started it. I don't even know if it's going to work, and it's probably going to take a few years before it's finished. But, I did my Hobbit fan edit project, which took 8 years, and I'm hoping this Star Wars one doesn't take that same length of time. I'm hoping it doesn't take 8 years. But if you are either, we've been talking about Middle-earth, we've been talking about Lord of the Rings, and we've even mentioned The Hobbit a few times. If you are interested in checking out my work and checking out my Hobbit edit, which did take me, as I mentioned, so many years to do, links to that are in the description down below. You can find it there. Please give it a watch. Give me some feedback. Yeah, it'd be nice to get more people watching it and sharing their opinions on it. But yeah, I am starting work on a Star Wars sequel trilogy edit. I've got a lot of ideas surrounding it. So if you guys would like a live stream on that where I'm discussing some of my ideas and what I'm trying to achieve with it, then maybe I could even ask JX Editor to jump on with me at some point and have more of just like a conversation just between me and him, shooting back ideas, because he's working on his own Star Wars fan edit as well. So maybe it'd be a good platform where he can share some of his ideas, I can share some of mine, and you guys can give us your opinions on the ideas that you like and the ideas that you think we should dump if you're a Star Wars fan. So if you're interested in a video like that, maybe you're not. Maybe you don't give a shit about the whole fan editing stuff. So in which case, I'm going to continue to be here doing trailer reactions as and when I can, as and when something takes my fancy. I'm going to be here doing movie reviews when there's a film out that I actually want to see. And the next film I will be seeing actually is Tuesday next week. I'll be back with another James Bond review. The Living Daylights, first Timothy Dalton Bond film, the first of only 2 Bond films that Timothy Dalton did. I'm going to be going live at 11:30 p.m. British Standard Time, and that's going to be on Tuesday, the 26th of July, literally in a couple of days' time. So please do check that out. The Bond reviews have been very, very fun to do week to week. Nikki says full-grown Ungoliant on screen would be mind-blowing. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Let's just... Okay, so the thing is with Tolkien in the Silmarillion, he can write a sentence, but the imagery that's construed from that one sentence is bigger than anything that's been put to screen at the moment with Lord of the Rings. And this is why I don't think you could do the Silmarillion on the big screen. I don't. I think the Silmarillion, now that I've thought about it, would actually be better suited to anime. But Ungoliant, who's this giant, like, Cthulhu-esque spider from the fucking void made of literal darkness, grabs Melkor because she wants the lights from the Silmarils, and she's like constricting Sauron, and she's about to devour him with the Silmarils, and he lets out this scream, like this shout that echoes across the land. And for centuries afterwards, when if someone was in that land and they shouted or yelled and it echoed, they still said, like, you could hear the yell of Melkor, and it was like this really forbidden place kind of thing, and like this really eerie place. And he shouts out, and then his army of Balrogs, his Balrog bodyguards show up, and they all lash their like fiery whips around Ungoliant and save their master Melkor. How fucking awesome is that? Could you imagine, especially with like the the iconography that we've got from the Peter Jackson films and now I guess Rings of Power, 5 of those Balrogs. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And I know that's not how Tolkien interpreted the Balrogs, which, you know, if you ever did something where Glorfindel is fighting the Lord of Balrogs in the fountain, he dies, doesn't he? Glorfindel dies in that battle where he fights an actual Balrog, but then he's reincarnated like later down the line. And of course, Glorfindel in the books is the one that saves Frodo at the flight to the Ford. You couldn't have an elf fighting a Balrog and like stabbing a Balrog and killing it, because you couldn't, with how big the Balrogs are on the screen in Peter Jackson's films. Like, you couldn't do that. But I do want to kind of think about that, like Melkor having a bodyguard army of Balrogs, and there's like 5 or 6 of them that show up. You know, 1's bad enough, but 5 or 6, fucking terrifying. It's so great though. This was larger than life, you know. And Calagon the Black, a dragon that allegedly, I know there's different interpretations of this, a dragon so huge that when it fell from the sky after it was killed, it leveled 3 mountains of Thangorodrim. Like, Smaug was huge in the movie, and he's baby shit compared to even Glaurung. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. It's imagery like this that keeps me going, you know, because it's just fantasy escapism at its best. It really is. But no, forget the Middle Earth that you know. Guys, we all need to forget the Middle Earth that we know. Forget it. It's not important. It's shit. It's non-progressive. It's terrible. We've got to get with the Rings of Power now. Guys, if another trailer comes out for this thing, you know, I'm going to be doing a reaction to it. I don't know if they'll probably do TV spots closer to the time. I can't promise I'll jump on for every single TV spot or new bit of footage. But if we get another trailer out, or trailer 2, final trailer, whatever they're going to call it, I'll jump on and do another reaction. But that's me all talked out, I think. So a big thank you to everyone that's joined me in the live chat tonight, shared your opinions as well and your speculation on the series. If you like the look of this series and you think it looks good and you're still holding out hope for it, then you know what? I still want to hear from you as well. Let me know what you think of the Rings of Power. As long as you're willing to have an adult discussion about it and like a genuine discourse about it, that's absolutely fine. Unlike other channels, I welcome all walks of opinions, as long as you're respectful when you give them. So let me know what you think of the trailer. And of course, if you've liked this, subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. As I mentioned, I'm going to be covering the Rings of Power stuff as and when it comes out, and if there are any more trailers, as well as any other big movies that come out that I want to see. I still haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder, and I'm probably not going to watch it because it sounds terrible. I'm going to save myself the hassle. I'm going to save myself the pain. But there are some films coming out that I do want to see, and I'll be here reviewing them. You can also follow me on Twitter as well. You can find me at Hobbit Fan Editor. That's at Hobbit Fan Editor. And speaking of Hobbit Fan Edit, as I mentioned, go and check out my Hobbit Fan Edit. Links to it in the description down below. Video on me explaining about it. Yeah, I really enjoyed making it, and I think it's a really fun version of the films. And as I said, Tuesday next week, I'm going to be going live for another James Bond review for The Living Daylights. Really looking forward to rediscovering that one on the big screen. Final thank you to everyone that's tuned in. Hope you're all having a very good Saturday, wherever you're coming at me from across the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or 20 to midnight in the UK. Thank you to everyone. Stay safe, stay excellent, and I'll catch you on the next video, guys. Take care, everyone.